Guys, it's Kay. Welcome back to my channel. It is week 3 of National Get Organized Month. So if you didn't know, January is Get Organized Month, and today I thought we would revisit a place that tends to get really disorganized very quickly, and that is the refrigerator. Now, I must confess that I have had a lot of trouble maintaining my refrigerator, and I am only a family of 2, just me and my husband, but we're both going in there, grabbing stuff, taking stuff, putting stuff back. There's leftovers all over the place. So I'm gonna share with you today some tips and tricks on keeping that space organized and some of my favorite fridge organizing products and how they've been working for me. I've been trying out some cool stuff for the past few months. I'll let you know how it went. So before we start this video, if you're not already subscribed, why are you not subscribed? It's easy and it's free, it costs you nothing. Just press the red subscribe button down below. Looks like that, press it. And if you are even more special, you love this channel even more, press the bell. You'll get notifications every time I upload. Isn't that fun? So I did do a how to organize your refrigerator video about a year ago. It is still, a lot of that information is still really relevant, but I thought I would do a little updated video on that. Some of the things I'll probably repeat in this video and they'll be old information, but I do have some new stuff to say as well. So I'll give you a little tour about what's going on in there and why I've set it up the way that I have and what has been working for our family and keeping it not so crazy in there. Okay, so here is the fridge. Let's go ahead and open her up and I'll give you a little idea of what's going on here. So, truthfully, we don't have a super amount of food, but we do have enough food to make 3 more meal line meals, and I'll talk a little bit more about meal line later. But I want to call attention to the entire space here, so I'm going to try and back up. So you can see everything pretty much except for the doors. Now, the top of the fridge is zone number 1 here. This is a zone just strictly for leftovers. Things that I have started to eat, like this is like leftover oatmeal from breakfast that I'm gonna just chow down on one morning, leftovers from takeout, just anything that's left over that needs to be eaten goes in one place so that it doesn't get lost in a sea of other things. And that way, if you're specifically feeling lazy and looking for a leftover, you know to look to this area. It's basically these 2 shelves here. And if you also want to notice, my fridge thermometer is actually very helpful because you can actually place this in different parts of your fridge. Like the front of the fridge is going to be colder than the back of the fridge. The top of the fridge sometimes is going to be a little different than the bottom of the fridge. So just experiment. You can move it around, close the fridge for an hour and see what the temperature is like, and that way you can learn what your hot spots and your cold spots are. In general, the cold spots are going to be the back of the fridge, the bottom area of the fridge, and that's about it. Sometimes the top of the fridge. Sometimes I do notice things freeze up there. That might be a function of this refrigerator exclusively, but not sure. Anyway, and the hot spots tend to be the doors. So those tend to be a little warmer part of the fridge. Now, the second zone that I've set up here is beverages, and for some reason avocados. I don't know why the avocados are sitting here. There's also one up there, which is really strange. I think this one is a more fresh avocado. That's why it's sort of separated from these guys who are a little bit older. The older avocados get, the more ethylene they're producing, and ethylene is a hormone that ripens plants. So these are both ethylene sensitive and extremely ethylene producing. So they are putting out a lot of that ripening hormone. So you're best off keeping avocados and things like this and apples. Apples are another culprit, separate from what's going on in the rest of your crisper drawers. But aside from that, this is a drink area. Now, a drink area is pretty cool. It doesn't need to be a specific temperature, especially because I think drinks are a little bit more tolerant, with the exception of dairy. We have a little bit of heavy cream back here, which I was actually cooking with, but notice that's in the back of the fridge because it's colder in the back of the fridge and things will stay fresher longer with dairy if they're in the back of the fridge. This soy milk I'm not really too concerned about, but it's there anyway. So we do have a little beverage area. Now, because we eat a lot of fresh vegetables and do buy a lot of fresh produce, we had to sort of distribute it along the shelves of our fridge as well as in the crisper drawers. Now, if you haven't seen a lot of my other videos, I just want to let you know that the crisper drawers and the crisper drawer settings are very intentional. There's a place for things that need humidity and things that need more air circulation because they're producing more ethylene, and these things are ethylene sensitive. Again, ethylene is that plant hormone that ripens plants and ages them, so putting your apples and bananas together is always a bad idea because apples are producing a lot of ethylene. Bananas are super sensitive to it. They're going to be just absorbing all kinds of that nonsense and ripening way before you want them to. And in general, the way that I have it set up right now is I have ethylene sensitive things or things that need more humidity on the right, and things that need less humidity or things that are producing a lot of ethylene on the left. If you are not sure which things go with what, I did produce a really nice PDF for you to download for free. It is an ethylene sensitive and producer's guide. So basically I have mine the way that it's set up in my fridge, but you can set it up any way you'd like. The ethylene sensitive stuff again is on the right and the ethylene producing things are on the left. And so all of these things are going to be making ethylene and giving off that plant hormone, and therefore this stuff needs to be kept away from that stuff. So doesn't necessarily mean all those things should live together. It's just a general guide on, like, if there's problems with over-ripening in your fridge, it's probably because some of these things are living with some of these things. Anyway, you can download it for free on my website. I will put a link down below. Something that helps me a lot in my produce drawers, my crisper drawers, see, high humidity, there's a reason for that, and it actually just closes the vent. It's really not that high of a technology. Anyway, one thing that really helps me with these produce drawers is taking most of the vegetables and fruits out of their outer packaging, like if you have a lot of plastic bags. I know, except this one is in its plastic bags, I think it needs a little more humidity, but I've noticed that especially these whole food bags that are green, if you've got a lot of them in here, you're not going to know what's going on in your drawer, and it's going to be confusing, and I've forgotten about so many vegetables that way. So I usually like to take things out of their packaging and just have them, you know, sitting out so you can see exactly what's going on. This little blue guy is an ethylene absorbing little dude. He's called Blue Apple, and it contains a chemical that just basically absorbs ethylene and reacts with it and turns it into carbon dioxide, which is pretty much harmless for you in your fridge, and it makes your vegetables last longer. So there is a little packet inside, which I maybe can show you. Oh yeah, there's a little packet inside that needs to be replaced about every 3 months. The packet is fully compostable, so you're not doing that much harm to the environment by buying this. And the inserts are not that expensive, so I have a lot of them scattered around. It's Blue Apple. Again, I will link that down below. I believe you can get it on Amazon. The other thing that's helped me is to put aluminum foil around celery. I don't know why this makes it last longer, but it does. So it looks like there's like something space-like in my produce store, but it's just celery. So I've got the Blue Apple in here. I've actually got more of these because these are the ethylene producing things. There's not that many bad culprits in here right now, and actually citrus doesn't really do anything. So citrus can kind of live wherever. I just put it in there just to be consistent with, like, well, you know what? I just put it in there just because, for no reason. But citrus doesn't really react. You can actually keep it on your counter, but it does last longer in the fridge, I found, with a little more humidity going on for it. So the next zone we have here is the bottom of our fridge, and if your fridge doesn't have a meat drawer, no worries. Just keep the stuff towards the bottom of your fridge. So the dairy and the meats are down here, and these little dudes, these little, I think they're from InterDesign. I think they're called fridge bins. I'll link them down below. You don't have to buy these. These are, in my opinion, terribly fancy, but you can get any sort of bin. You can go grab it from the dollar store or from Marshall's. Marshall's actually has a lot of InterDesign stuff for way cheaper than if you bought it from like just regular retail. So check out your Marshalls or Home Goods or TJ Maxx. They do have a lot of this stuff. Anyway, it's basically a bin to keep everything under control. Oh, got the beeping, so I need to talk quickly. I've basically labeled this one cheese. I don't know if you can see it, but we can read it here at home. And this one is meat. I do think it's important to have your meat sort of on a tray so that if anything happens, if meat juices are leaking, you can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to contaminate your entire fridge with the meat juices if you are a meat storing kind of person. Right now we don't really have any meat. I'm not really sure what this is. I think this is my husband's stuff. I think we have to maybe go through that later today. But I also keep all of the butter. Down here we've got the butter that's already opened and the new butter. We don't actually use a lot of butter. I know I have so much butter. Maybe I should like bake something. But we also have a container full of eggs. So I also want to re-mention that eggs should be stored pointy side down because of the way that diarrhea? No. Because of the way that bacteria travels in eggs. Diarrhea would be horrible in eggs. I don't know. Anyway, so pointy side down always. I know every egg has a round side and a pointed side. Sometimes it's really hard to tell which side is which, but they're pretty much sold in the store that way, and you should store them that way if you take them out of the store packaging and put them in something like this. This is also from Enter Design. I did get this also from Marshall's for way cheaper than you can get it on Amazon, so go ahead and check to see if you can grab it. But it's labeled on the back to when you should eat these eggs. That is an erasable label. You can also put that in the dishwasher and it won't come off. It's pretty handy. All you need is Sharpies to use it. And that is the wonderful meat dairy drawer, and it stays pretty organized. And we're just taking a break, and little Clover is my little filming partner here, but he seems to be very tired. Are you tired, little buddy? Yes. It's exhausting being so cute. Life is so hard. Along with using produce drawers, I do find that I sort of spill out into some of this area. So this area alone is sort of reserved for larger vegetables that don't fit in here, leafy vegetables as well. So I'm gonna actually take these out of the fridge and talk about them. But I just want to also mention that I use these little bins to catch cut vegetables. You know, if you cut an onion but don't use all of it, or a lemon but don't use all of it, I do sort of contain them just so I don't lose track of how many I actually have. It's just forcing me to keep them all together, and I find that this really works for our family. I do have one extra one just labeled veggies just in case. You never know. You never know. I find that this system has pretty much helped me keep control over like pieces of vegetables, which I find that I forget about all the time before I did this. All right, so I'm going to talk about 3 products from Progressive that I have been really happy with. One of them I bought full retail price, and the other 2 I did find at Marshall's. So again, a plug for Marshall's. This is #not sponsored. You can find a lot of really cool things at Marshall's for way lower than the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So keep an eye out for Marshall's. Anyway, so the biggest guy over here is the lettuce keeper. Now I've had this for a number of years. I think I've had it for like maybe 10 years or so. You can put this in the top rack of the dishwasher. It keeps lettuce really fresh because there is a little reservoir at the bottom for some water. So there is a little guide here at like of things you can actually store in here. It comes with a divider that goes right in the middle, but right now I'm not using it because I have this big thing of lettuce here, but it keeps lettuce fresh for much longer than it would just if it were exposed to the open air and didn't have all this humidity sort of giving it life again. Anything leafy and green is gonna need some humidity and in order to keep fresher for longer. Let's move around to the herb keeper. This one I got recently. Don't love it as much because I do feel like it's a little bit tiny. But this cilantro has been in here for, I want to say a couple of weeks. It's starting to get a little bit brown, but it's still relatively fresh. See, on top you can see that it's still really fresh. There's still some really fresh leaves. Actually, I think it is starting to go down the path of no good, but it has been really fresh for a long time, and I think that even though it's on its last legs, it has stayed fresh in this much longer than it would if it were just exposed to the air. Now, another thing you can do that works really well is just to place the cilantro. See, it has a little water at the bottom. place the cilantro in a jar and just put a Ziploc bag on top of the jar, maybe put a little rubber band around it. That works also. It's basically the same concept if you don't want to get this sort of contraption. And I do find that this is a little limiting anyway because it sort of pushes the leaves together and probably makes them go bad faster. So if you have a sort of smaller bunch of cilantro, I think this will work great, but I do think this was like a little too thick for it, but it did stay fresh for a long time, and I think I'm gonna actually say goodbye to the cilantro when this video is over. But let's take a look at the smaller keeper here. Now this is just like the regular like veggie keeper, and I've been using it for herbs as well. I've been using it for another sensitive herb, which is parsley, and let me tell you, it has stayed fresh for a long time. This still smells really good. I've had this parsley a couple of weeks again, and because it's got a little bit of that moisture at the bottom, it doesn't even have that much. It has stayed fresh and the leaves have stayed nice and crisp. So it's good for pretty much everything. I really, really like it. It's kind of a good size. It's a little smaller than the lettuce keeper so that it won't overwhelm your fridge. I know that this lettuce keeper is super ginormous, but it's got to fit some lettuce. So anyway, the top just snaps on like that. Woo! And it does have a little vent so that you can open and close and expose it to more air or less air, depending on what exactly you're storing in here. I do find that these are maybe a little bit weird, but for the most part, it's a pretty good guide about what you should be doing with this keeper. So I'm gonna put these back and talk about what's going on the doors of the fridge. So the doors of your fridge are gonna be your warm spots. So I am pretty much relegating it to like beverages like almond milk. It just needs to be like, you know, cool-ish. It's not going to spoil as fast as regular dairy milk. And these are condiments and things that are a little more tolerant of heat. So things with vinegar in them, you know, things with a lot of salt in them, such as olives, will last longer and do just fine in the doors. So we've got a zone here of like, this is basically like things that I cook with, like this is like bouillon. We got some garlic. No, wait, this is ginger. We got some minced ginger back here, little tomato paste, little basil paste, and some minced garlic if I'm feeling lazy. And basically up here we've got some condiments and also a couple things we cook with. There's olives and pickled things as well, sliced pickled jalapenos, yummy, mayonnaise, things like that. And on the other side we have more drinks. So again, things that are in the door, drinks are very, very heat tolerant, and the door tends to be the hot part of the fridge. Not hot, but you know, warm part of the fridge. So you've got our little champagnes and seltzer waters here as well, since they tend to be pretty tall. Again, here, more things that we cook with, sauces that we cook with. Soy sauce, fish sauce, cocktail sauce, and with the exception of Clover's peanut butter, which is right here. And on the top here we've got sort of sweet and hot. So we've got lots of hot sauces and syrup and what else is there? Jam, and for some reason we have chocolate syrup. Somebody in our house has a sweet tooth. I don't know who it is though. Anyway, so that's the entire fridge and how it's organized. It stays pretty neat and pretty clean most of the week. Occasionally it does get a little bit crazy, but as long as you stay on top of it, it can stay pretty neat. And these little containers I find have helped me the most with cut vegetables. That way they're just not scattered all over the place, you know, and all crazy, because that can make a huge difference on like how much you see and how much you don't see. And just a real quick look in the freezer here, nothing too spectacular. I do have sort of a separation here of like, these are fruits here in this bin, and then there's just veggies all around. Like, I'm obsessed with having frozen veggies. You gotta have that just in case, you know, you wanna cook and you can't get to the grocery store, you got some stuff to work with. We do have a little bit of frozen herbs and salmon here. We got some bananas, which actually work. I mean, frozen bananas are pretty amazing. We've made some frozen banana ice cream, and banana bread is always a good thing. So you can have a little frozen banana stash. As soon as they start to go brown, just pop them in the freezer and they're like ready to go. So awesome. We got some like basically lunch stuff, keeping it cold. This is stuff for my eye mask and little boo-boo thing if someone has a boo-boo. And in here, we just have some of Clover's stuff. This is his, these are his frozen blueberries. We got some Kongs that for him, if I leave him for a few hours, I give him one of those. And he is happy to see me go instead of traumatized. And he's got some frozen pumpkin from that was previously canned but is now frozen. I put it in an ice tray and froze it so that if he's got a little belly upset, we can get him right with that. But talk to your vet first. And got some leftovers here, a little leftovers and some bread, a little bit of blood orange sorbet there. We're not a super ice creaming eating family, so we do like the sorbets and the banana ice creams. But anyway, that's a quick tour of the freezer. Not as fabulous as the fridge, but works for us because this format is a little different than what I'm used to working with. But I find that we like it very much. So that's it for today, you guys. I hope this gave you some inspiration about how to organize your fridge and how to keep it under control there. And let's talk in the comments. What is the first thing that when you bring it home from the grocery store and put in the fridge that is gone the fastest? Like, what is the thing that you're always having to repurchase? Let me know down in the comment below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, thanks for watching.